guys, it's Ben here from Second Dynasty with you with a new weekly update stream. We'll be streaming for about an hour. We make 3D printable starships. We're currently about to release a new campaign as early as next week. We don't have the final date set, but this is happening. We've gotten approval from MMF, and we're also launching something new on that service as well. So just as we were the first people to use their pledge manager, we will be the first people to use their new service, which is not quite crowdfunding, something else. We still will be having some stretch goals based on how much we get in. I don't think they're going to be called stretch goals, but I don't want to give away the game too soon. So what are we looking at? We're looking at Autodesk Maya. This is the native viewport of our most recent scene. We'll be talking today about all the new parts that we have going. But before we get things really revved up, not that they're going to be, it's not going to be high tempo today, guys. But last week we were working on a scene. I have refined that even more. And I wish to show it off. So this is the Maya version, but we now have the rendered version. So while we wait for people to drop in, we can start to get the ball rolling by showing off what we have been up to. So this is the composition version. I'm going to kill my camera, and we're going to look at it. Still no sound, but here we go. So this is the original version. This is what we showed last week. All designed in Maya's own viewport. So this is basically a video game sort of playing. It is render, but now we have the second pass that we're doing, and you'll notice something new. The door is open. We'll get into more detail about those later. We do need to fix that light. And then we're showing off the hardware fog path. And then after this sequence, there will be the final version. So basically, we've loaded this all up into After Effects, and then combine things into this final version. So we just have a hint of the environment fog going on, but it's not taking over the scene. We played with the lighting a little bit to increase contrast. And yeah, there we go. Might be inclined to have the camera stop a little bit more in this passage in the future, but yeah, that's basically what we've been doing. Oh, John, does that feel like Alien? I wonder why. I wonder how that has happened. What a coincidence. So let's get out of this thing. And we're actually in Maya now. Let me just close it all up. We can actually see the live version, although it is quite slow. Now, mind you, I have been doing quite a few different things in this scene. It's quite heavy with the shadows. I've also had a dobe on, which means that it's been chugging along in the background, stealing up all the memory that Maya likes to use as well. This is one of my favorite parts, is the fan shadow. I'm trying to point on the screen. There you go. You can see the, if we switch to the perspective camera instead, we can survey this scene as it's all lit up. You see the new components here are some new pieces. You can actually see how tiny that alien shadow is. It's Papsicle's model. But yeah, one of my favorite things here is this animated fan. So to get those shadows, we literally just animated the fan. And you can kind of see it affects the environment, casting this nice little light. Hello, Tamsin, Todd, and Fiery Phoenix. Welcome to the stream. So yeah, hopefully, is this too dark for you guys? I can increase this a little bit. Now this is 5 times the actual exposure level. Albin is in the background, but he's having computer problems, and I can see his brain is... He doesn't have the bandwidth for the stream. Feeling good about my hiring choices at the moment. So yeah, I've just increased the light a little bit so you can see a little more clearly in case this is a bit dark. So yeah, we do want a nice dark, dank sort of atmosphere. But yeah, the new features here are... let me just load up a second copy of Maya. There we go. We're only on 2020. I just haven't been bothered upgrading because we do use some plugins. All right, you've changed your name again, Liger. I'm not used to that. Yeah, this is maybe a bit too bright. Let's drop this down to 3. There we go. But I just wanted to pick things up, and actually, if we spool back in the timeline, we should get the light on in this room so we can take a closer look at what we have in here. So if I isolate this, can see that this was originally designed as what were we calling it? I think it was a power generator, strongly inspired by the Mongoose Traveler sort of illustrations for that sort of thing. Oh, you're on your home computer, all right. So I might be slow with questions today, but it's nice to see a lot of people commenting at least. I wasn't sure if people would turn up. We forgot to set this in advance. So let's see. We have this new piece, and if I just, let's see, go into recent projects, Starship 4, and we go to, could it be this? Clean catalog, that one. Might take a little while to load up. We are kind of trying things out now. So John hasn't got this one prepared yet. Prepared for what you might be asking? Well, we'll talk about that very soon. All right, a different account, fair enough. So I'm really liking the way that this is coming out, although obviously this is with light and shadow on. And this is the old version right here. So if we compare, the geometry is quite simplistic. Yeah, the generator totally was a Traveler knockoff from Mongoose. All of these things they were designed to work for Traveler basically. But now we have a far more refined version. Trying to get away from that sort of stuff, even if revamping old stuff means revisiting, the generic brand version, the same design aesthetics as the other ones. A lot of differences here. This print's in place now. The generator must be broken as the low light dictates. Perhaps, although the lights are on, but no one's home. It's funny how that's the first time Albin's commented in 5 minutes. He's just when he hears that remark. So we have rearranged things a little bit. Why did we change the layout? Well, the reason for that is quite simple. And I'll turn the lights off and dim this back down to 1. So we can see our scene. It has grown quite a lot since last time. I didn't place... This machine room would have 2 more machines in here, but I didn't want the shadows to ruin our nice little effect with this tiny alien miniature that we're using at the moment. We've done a lot of iteration and a lot of parts, and in fact, here's our parts list. So I think in total if I select all of these, I'm pretty sure we've got like close to 140 parts. 75. What? Okay. Oh, I didn't select everything. That makes more sense. I was like, I've done more than 75. Here we go. So 130 parts. There you go. With a couple more incoming, because I figured out, we're missing a thing or two, a couple of different iterations. But the point is, we're ready for an actual release next week. We actually have the files. The tricky corner pieces, those we solved nicely with this. So these make it so that it's only on one side, right? So here we go. So we cut off a piece on one side of it, and these slot in perfectly. So that, yeah, it's not like the best solution, but it's a solution where we don't have to go and redo everything, right? Excel, the most common software used in additive manufacturing. I don't disagree with you, Lagger, although in this case it is the open version, so Google Sheets. Mostly so we can work on them together. I do prefer Excel myself. And again, here you can see the old versus the new in all of their glory. So I don't know if you guys like this version more or not. But they're going to look really good in resin. At the moment, they're single piece. I might make them separate in the future. I had a funny idea that if we use filament to connect them, you could literally connect the cable. That would be fun. But I don't know. It is a little bit of a thing to do. So I probably spent more time than I should have converting these pieces. We weren't planning to do all the machinery, but I really like the idea of selling this upcoming pack as a finished concept. So a Lego set as opposed to Lego pieces, if you will. So that whilst you'll have all the pieces to make, your own custom deck plans, I do understand that not everyone has the bandwidth basically to think about things, or they want an example to go off. So on top of like presenting a concept like these rooms in a corridor, Albin's working on his own animation that will take place around the corner from here. A little bit more of an action sequence. That is going to be, our objective for this campaign. And then the machinery will probably redo all of the old machinery. And I'll probably try and get away from, the original designs where it's like suspiciously Traveler. So I don't really have a plan for today. We're kind of focusing on how we're going to present this all today. You can kind of see from this earlier image where I'm just working on some mock-ups and things of how we're actually going to present the scenes on my mini factory. This is a reject, according to John at least. There's too much going on, or at least it looks maybe fine when it's larger, but when you sort of shrink it down, there's just too much going on in the picture. Let's see. That would be easy to kit bash, and I like this set model for selling. Yeah, like it's a lot of parts. We've worked out the value for money, and as an upgrade for you guys that already have Starship 1, $25, 130 plus models, because that's not including stretch goals, right? We're planning to tackle some of the older, uglier things like the staircases, more like flooring variation. Like I'm sort of preparing to design the widening, right? And I realize there's just so many parts to iterate. So we'll leave those as sort of like stretch goals to unlock, because we really need to see if this campaign concept's going to work. But John is here for a reason this week. It's not because he enjoys watching the stream. It's because he's been doing some work and he wants to boost his ego. And that work would be in the form of on 3DO or 3-dio, or whatever you want to call it, aka also known as Deck Designer 2.0. This is the first time I've actually loaded this up. Essentially, we've just changed the name to make it more accommodating. As mentioned, anyone who bought Deck Designer in the last, I guess, 7 months gets a free upgrade if they want it. And essentially, we just wanted to make it more appealing to a wider audience. And if we go into assets in the bundle browser, even if you go into Deck Designer right now, if you do a refresh, you should see at least Starship Titles TNG preview, and in here we have a ton of subfolders, and you can actually preview and view the files already in advance. So if you have Deck Designer or if you have 3DO, you can just open it up right now and start playing with the parts. Now, there are a couple of caveats, like there are a couple of components we've changed slightly. Mostly the thing that comes to mind is that I realized our doorways, let's see, how do I place this? There we go, a doorway.
Oh god damn it, this is cool. I haven't seen this one, this before.
You've not? No, I haven't opened 3DO either. I feel really bad about that. One of the problems we've left in here is that the door here, it's too thin. So this is not meant to be as thick as that. So we'll have to change that. And if we switch over to Maya, you should be able to see that now that same piece is considerably wider here in the middle. So that was just necessary because, well, the doors weren't fitting properly in the prototype. And speaking of prototypes, is there anyone that would like to see the prototype? Because I have it here on the table. Maybe I will turn some lights on or something. Let's put on a little light to light it all up. Oh, that's a bit hairy. And let's switch to the close-up camera. It's me. And let's look at my desktop. So again, I really need to take the bloody autofocus off. But you can see that, come on. You can see things. Apparently it doesn't want to focus as usual. Oh, we're focused somewhere. It's just it doesn't quite seem to understand where the autofocus should be. So we have this sort of collection. Track the movement, you stupid camera. Smart camera, my ass. Awesome miniatures that were painted by David Woods. You can see the machinery, well, maybe you can't see because of the blurriness, but for FDM, I think the detail came out nicely. Come on, seriously, camera, what's wrong with you? Oh, no, I moved it. It's very confused. It doesn't know what it's studying. We can get down in the passage. And look, you want to play? We just take off the top part and you get your nice play surface. Alright. Oh, now it's in focus. What the hell? Look at that miniature. It looks fantastic. And I zoom in and it blurs again. But you can see a lot better now. So the idea is that you just take the top off to access it when you want to play right, and you want it to look good. You just put these tops back on. They connect with a rather satisfying click. See? The more walls you have on, the better the seams disappear. Oh, this is nice and sharp. So I'm really happy with the way this is looking. It is a sci-fi dungeon, essentially. Well, the I gotta stop talking about this bloody camera. Because it keeps switching out right when I say, oh, the camera's behaving.
It's self-aware.
It is self-aware. Alright, so we don't need this light anymore. It's actually very bright outside. The spring has sprung. And of course, Albin has a bunch more tiles on his table, so we're just kind of figuring out how we're going to unite them all in the end. And god damn, it's only 20 minutes into the stream, and I'm like, I don't know what else to show you. So yeah, 3DO, for people that don't know, it's a piece of software I had John create, and we premiered it with Starship 5. I'll just move my little head around here so you can see.
I was kind of wondering about 3DO. Does it have like snap points and stuff like that? So you could...
It does, you're holding shift.
Oh, sweet. So could we put the door on top of...
And this whole move point to point and move 3 point to 3 point is a snapping tool thing as well. It's not perfect yet. We will, refine it over time. But you use the paint thing, load item, you can choose which one you want. The top parts are a little more tricky to sort of snap into place. But for example, you use the R tool to rotate, like so. Let's see, I'm trying to recreate what we have. So we have another one of those, it's there. Let's see, is that too long? Yes. Something like that. Let's see. And then let's go for another piece. Another piece. These short ones we can use. Then we can grab one of the S tiles with the pipes built in it. This one is going there. We don't have the machinery in yet. And I guess it uses one of these.
So we got a question if there is a shuttle and a troop transport to go with it.
There is not. We are saving that for its own campaign in the future. But not today.
Man, I have to say it looks awesome in 3DO.
Yeah, John's done a good job. Yeah. The only thing is I really want Maya controls. So that's the only there's a couple of frustrations, but like that's how we develop things too. The more I use this,
frustrations.
The more I have things to complain about, the more the software is gonna develop. Oh my god. Yeah, I mean John does a fantastic job. And he's only as good as our instructions. So if anyone's to blame, it's my laziness.
I thought you were going to say me.
Well, John would suggest that. And he's not wrong.
Oh.
I'm kidding. Oh yeah, it definitely is okay to abuse your co-workers and employees. That's normal.
Oh, very cool.
It's the American way. There's a couple of these that are upside down, I've noticed. I saw one just now. This one, the corner piece. So we need to flip this. I'm guessing that we want to rotate. Is there an easy way to flip, John? A shortcut for flipping? It's not rotating, right? Rotating is only in like the... That's in the Y. So what we want is maybe in the X 180. Yeah, there we go. Oh, but it's on the ground now. In any case, this would be used somewhere here. I'm gonna load a different part because I'm putting that in a too high pile. Let's see, that one will go there, and that one will go there. Then we want the window wall.
You can type in 180 on Z, apparently.
Okay, let's try that one more time. Let's see, 180. It's still like, yeah, I would need to snap it. I would need to, like, the problem is it's beneath the thing. I don't know how to go up on grid thing.
You never used the snap points for fast place.
Alright, well, I don't want to use snap points right now. I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to move on to other pieces.
There is additional options though. Snap to grid and snap on.
Yeah, well, if you want to play with that in your own time, Alban, you feel welcome to do that. I kind of feel the pressure of being on a live stream, so...
Yeah.
Oh, it turns out that the corners are a different kind anyway. So, we may be saved. I mean, we weren't in any real danger. There we go. Oh, what's going on here?
John also said, even though it might be disturbing to click on snap point, disturbing is not the right word in this context.
Well, maybe not for you, John. Let's snap these to the grid. It's a shift as you move it. It's supposed to be, anyway. Oh, this one. Okay, press shift up first, I think, was the issue. Before you move it. Alright, so that looks like it's all coming together nicely. Let's add some more floors. You guys are kind of seeing the first time I'm like properly testing out this functionality in Deck Designer, because mostly, if I'm honest, I've used it for the instructions more than anything else. Alright, and then we want a short one. But John does a good job. Feed that ego. Alright, so we have our stupid non-Maya tools. Also, maybe we can refine the zooming, or is there, maybe you can hold shift actually, no? Is there a way to make it less jumpy? Anyway, this is not the right forum for that. As you can see, you can preview the parts, you can plan out your builds already, which is kind of exciting. We'll keep updating those. But, you know, this is a way to kind of like try and present, you know, an accurate version of what we've made. How you can test out how to use it if you have Deck Designer. And sorry, 3DO. As a part of the campaign, one of the things we'll be doing is we're starting a Tribes at the same time. Tribes is basically Maya Mini Factory's version of Patreon. We already have a Patreon, so we'll just, which is really just for discounts on the Maya Mini Factory store and for, you know, licensing and whatnot. So we're basically going to mirror that functionality on Tribes, but we're going to add some variant parts every month as a bonus on top of, you know, the discount. And in addition, we're also providing access to 3DO. So if you subscribe to that and you don't happen to own 3DO, you can download 3DO and your subscription allows you to update in the future. How do I convince my wife to let me back the next generation when I already own a version of the tiles? Okay, let's look at those original tiles and you can decide. Because I have imported them here. So
we should do a comparison between like different versions of fonts or something.
This is the before for this is version 1 of the engineering walls. right? This is what we had. Version 2, we went up a little bit in detail, but it was still, not perfect. And again, here is the engineering machinery parts, and here is the new version. So let's get rid of everything else but for these, so that we can have a nice good squiz at this. The detail level on the new version is significantly better. It makes a lot more sense design wise. These are double-sided walls, this particular version. The machinery, if you print this on a resin machine, that's the other thing too. We've made these resin friendlier. All of those supports that are in the open lock tiles have been removed for convenience. The other thing too is that these essentially are, they are completely separate, tops and bottoms, so that you can print them in greater detail. But really, I mean, it's a sales pitch. I feel awkward making sales pitches, but like if you already own them, it's $25 for 130 files. I mean, it's a good deal. Simple as that. $50 if you don't own the original version, and just between you guys and I mean, that's all on an honor-based system, so I'm not going to be checking. But yeah, there is a significant increase in quality, and ultimately you might decide that the versions are good enough for your needs. But yeah, $25, fairly affordable, I think. Considering the number of files. And that's not to mention the stretch goals, because again, if we really want to get into the old versions, I mean, I'm almost embarrassed of the quality, to be honest. Like, we have these lifts, so I definitely want to redo the lifts. Look at these, like, teleportation pads. The staircases, we can do these so much better. I'm not saying we're going to tackle all of these, like the curved walls and things. We can probably do some basics of those. It's not going to be absolutely everything that we redo in this round. Basically, this is a proof of concept. If people are interested in updating stuff, yeah, exactly, Pulsify. It's not. Yeah, I like John's comment. I'll take 12. Yeah, so I've tried to make it so it's a no-brainer for you guys that have supported me all along. The new feature of My Mini Factory I was discussing at the top of the show, this is not a My Mini Factory crowdfunding campaign. This is a completely new concept, which is aimed at, I guess, chiefly eliminating a lot of the confusion. I mean, My Mini Factory crowdfunding is a misnomer, because you're buying it right on My Mini Factory. You're not actually, I guess on Kickstarter it's kind of like if you get enough people backing you, you can make this project a reality, whereas on MMF it was you're really pre-ordering. So this new concept should address that issue a bit more. There are still the equivalent of stretch goals, but there is no funding goal. It's like a launch party, if you will. So we'll see how that goes. And exactly, they didn't go with launch, which is my suggestion. But I feel like the name that they did choose fits very well equally with science fiction and fantasy. So I own every second Dynasty Kickstarter, so 25 will be fine. Thanks, Pulsifer. I really appreciate that, mate. The idea is to, like, in a way, it's like a small fee to, get new features. It's kind of like this. Not to mention the fact that, 5 years ago, everyone was printing on FDM. Like, no one could afford a resin printer. And there weren't many great ones. They were around, but, it wasn't really as openly consumer level as it is now. And whilst the new files, again, they're not designed specifically for resin, but they are resin friendly. So you wouldn't have to worry about pre-supports. I think most of the parts will print straight off the pad. I think the only real issue to worry about is maybe if these sort of like indents would be capturing, creating suction perhaps. So I'm not sure. We haven't gotten to test printing, so it's not going to be a case for everything. But in most cases, it's like the top parts, for example, I think all of them could print pretty much as they are, straight off the base. Basically, stick this on the top. So we need to test that concept. But you do notice that we have removed all of the pre-supports. I just don't, even the FDM printers don't need it these days. Not a single open lock tile clip hole. And yeah, if you know this proves to be popular enough, we'll continue not just with the engineering tiles, but I mean like sorry, I've clicked the wrong thing. But obviously we have a lot of tiles spread out all over the place in this scene. We did a folder count. These are mostly from Starship 2, I think. We did a folder count, and we had something like 3,000 files. So there's a lot of stuff, and like some of it looks very, very simple. And simple is great, it paints easy, it's not always an issue. I think we'll probably just revisit parts where I feel like the scale is off. You know, even these from Starship 2 were a lot better in the S position, so we'll tackle the Starship 1 pieces. We'll probably do some conversion pieces. Let's see. Are we going to pre-support them for resin? The answer to that is fuck no. That's not happening. There's no way. Part of the feedback we've gotten from people doing the resin prints is that there's a number of people that just prefer simply to make their own supports. And it makes more sense for miniatures where it's a lot more fire and forget. Here we're talking about much larger quantities of resin comparatively when you're doing tiles, right? The material costs are higher. So I think, to be honest, it's not going to happen. We're not going to pre-support absolutely everything for resin. The way we've approached things is a hybrid method of making them resin safe, or at least considering resin in the designs. And a lot of that we get the added benefits of this, you know, halving of the pieces so that we have a top and bottom. This is one of the more recent changes. I mean, this is like FDM. You only get so much detail, but print this thing in resin and, you know, you're getting all of the nooks and crannies. But this piece, despite its size, it doesn't really have any points where there's suction. There's like already gaps where there needs to be gaps. You get these nice features like the lights, like that'll come out on resin. So yeah, it's just one of those things where it doesn't make sense for us. Like, we don't even know if this campaign makes sense for us, considering the resources we put into it. We have to find out. And it has taken me away from the ship, but at the same time, you know, the ship, as it stands, the traveler ships are not, the 28mm ones are not really viable. So we have to figure out, you know, to do these smaller campaigns to actually be able to make the larger ships. So it's like partially a labor of love, right? All right, so we have 3DO, and now we actually have quite a few more people here. Oh, no, we don't. It's all the same 5 people. Not to matter, guys. Some of you probably missed the video we made from last week, so I'll just show that again. Let's see. So I'll just replay it. So this was the original version. It's almost like I've written this in. I'll take off my my little video corner. So mostly I was happy with this, but of course I got fixated on other details. This is a second pass where we've added in the machinery and opened the door. You can see the door closes, just add a bit more life. The section there where the light goes off a little too long, but it looks kind of fine. Shadows, there's machinery in that room as well, and we have the fan, of course. This is a hardware fog pass. This fog is way too strong, and I didn't really want it taking up the entire picture. Although it kind of looks cool, and you can see more details. But then we did a final composition where we basically integrated the shadows and the fog. The fog's down to about 20%. So it just creates a little sense of atmosphere, especially in the distance. And again, this is all just very basic camera animation. The fan, the door, and basically lights. Oh, and the alien thing as well. So that's, let's see, let's put my mug back up. There we go. And I guess we switch back over to Maya or something. I don't know. I'm kind of, we're at a point where we're just trying to figure out how we're going to present this next week. MMF were a bit slow responding with the Easter break and whatnot, but we finally got a time slot for next week. I imagine it'll be on Friday. We often launch on Wednesdays, but in this case, I think we'll launch on a Friday. Let it go out with their newsletter, because MMF's a different beast than Kickstarter. We will do some promotion early next week, so you guys get some previews. Tomorrow we're going to spend basically detailing all the parts. We're gonna we could make a copy of this scene. Originally I was thinking if we might reuse some of the machinery components from the Type S, but I thought no, we'll go back to our original to use that. I think what we could do is we could consider the setup for the pieces. Since that needs doing, we've only got about 15 minutes left. I'm going to save this scene. And there's a lot of crap in this scene, so it's not really ideal for using. But I've actually set up some viewport lighting as opposed to action lighting. And this should be... Oh, I hit it. That's right. I hit the lighting because I suspected that it might affect the rendering. So I just need to turn on these 4 spots and... Did that work? It did. So this used a spot system rather than directional lights. If we turn them off again and we put on our directional lights, this works fairly well in the scene, but it lights everything. And what it leads to in Maya is you get these kind of like bad shadows because it's trying to illustrate everything in the scene. But if we switch those to spotlights, it's only focusing on what the light is hitting rather than potentially everything. And like if I, for example, took this and moved it out here, you can actually see in the middle of the screen those shadows moving, because it's running out of like memory of where it can actually place the shadows. And if we go and look at those shadows, they'll look even, it's kind of hard to see on the line, but they're even blurrier. They don't look that bad, but like, it's just a way of optimizing things. Anyway, we're not going to use that for now. We're going to stick to this basically so we can see everything. I might turn on the sky dome, because that affects everything as well. And should just... Oh, that's odd. Maybe the group's hidden, now that I think about it. Let's see, where is it? Spotlight's there. No, it should be on. Is it just that we need to move something around? It should have been lifting the shadows. It could be a case of that Maya can't find the HDRI image. No, that looks good. That looks like it's supposed to. Running out of resolution. Yeah. Because it should be lifting these. I guess it is quite. It is on quite weak. So again, the exposure intensity is 0.001, so that could be it. There we go. Yeah, that'll be it. I only wanted something subtle that would lift the shadows. But what we want to do is we want to create a new camera. So not from view, we're going to go file, create, sorry, and then cameras, and then we just want a regular camera. We don't need any of these extra features. Why did that not work? Oh, it did. The camera's there. It's actually very small. We can scale up this. This doesn't scale the camera in any way. It just scales the tool up. Actually, you know what? It's not there because we don't have. We didn't have controls on. So we want the HUD. We should be able to see it now. In theory, there it is. Very small. And if I just move this up, we're going to rotate this down 45 degrees. Let's see, let's make that 45. And then we'll make this. Actually, what we should have done is rotate it in the direction we want it to point first. So rotate 45 degrees in this direction. Wait, no, 90. And then 45 degrees down. So now that makes more sense, and we will again turn off these light controllers. We don't need the lights there, and we will just go show, perspective, and then the new camera is just called camera 2. We can rename this to cam and isometric. For some reason it's having some issues, but in any case, right now we can kind of like view around the scene. If we wanted to, we could rotate as normal. I don't really want to do that. I want to get back in the position I was in. But as you can see, this is not isometric. And in fact, if we did want it to be isometric, we'd want to rotate this another 45 degrees or so. So if I move this back to like, will 45 work? Yes. So this is an approximate isometric look, but you can kind of see that this is in perspective. Even if we zoom out, this is not like this. It's not focusing the way it should show objects in the distance. You can kind of see that this does not look square, right? You can see this in perspective. So what we want to do is change this camera from a regular camera into an isometric camera. And in Maya, this is called orthographic. So if we move orthographic over, we're going to have to zoom out. But if we look at this same zone again, now all of these pieces are isometric, and this looks like Ultima 8. So, or what was it? Crusader No Remorse. A little bit more of a science fiction game. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it or played it. It was from the 90s. So yeah, we want to set up this camera because I think the best way to show off the pieces, we're still going to have to work with our lighting groups. And if I take our spotlights group, we can actually change the angle of all of this lighting to suit the angle that we want to display stuff in. So I think actually maybe we just want to move the, oh that's right, the spotlights weren't actually on, so all our directional lights are not moving with it. So the question is, where are those lights hidden? I guess we have the spotlights, directional lights. These ones are in their own folder. So, for example, if we took this and we can rotate these around, we just want to get the basic light looking right for this perspective. So we probably want like something that's going to clearly show off the parts. We want to get, you know, the shadows just so, and we could play with just this environmental light as a sort of backlight, maybe. Probably an easy way to do this would be if we switch back to perspective and we actually, if I select this sky dome, somewhere in here we should have settings, viewport there, hardware, where is it? Opacity here. So if we increase the opacity, it should, why did that not turn up? Is it because it's in a lighting? How odd. I was expecting that to be there. Oh well, guys, I guess sometimes you get a surprise. But yeah, if we sort of like move this lighting around, it has like a hard light, and we want to create basically some backlighting. It's not too hard though. So the idea is that you should be able to see these parts with some definition, right? From essentially this angle. And then what we're going to do over time is lay out all of these pieces similar to this, so that we can create some graphics that show you all the parts that you're actually going to get in high enough detail that you can actually see. Now you may be noticing that when we zoom out, you really can't see many details of these floor pieces, and that is an issue. But the solution that I've been using is that we actually render at 4K and then reduce it down so we get some of those details back in. So if we like just focus on one piece, like let's grab these three components and we isolate those. Actually, we don't need to isolate here, we need to switch cameras. And we'll go, you'll notice that the camera's disappeared from perspective because it's now an orthographic. If we just press F for focus, zoom out, and isolate that, we have this nice piece here. And you can kind of more clearly see what it's all about. So I don't know how big or how detailed we're going to do these, but basically we're trying to make something similar to what we had back in yesteryear with the original stuff. Let's see if I can find the images I'm thinking of. Images. Oh right, these aren't synced. Of course they're not. Let's see, I'm just giving it a bit of time. It's happening on my other screen right now. I don't want to share that because obviously I've got all the streaming stuff on it. So I guess we could move this over so you guys can start to see. Dropbox is going, oh, I can't quite remember. So we did have some graphics. Oh, that's a PSD. This is a blast from the past, I'll tell you. We've been at this for so long. Let's see.
I have to say that you look kind of cute with that orthographic view.
Yeah. Oh, ugh. Look at all this horrible stuff. I guess I can make these previews larger so that you can also wallow in my embarrassment. I mean, it was very iterative for the time that we had. I guess these graphics aren't so big. Let's see. So the idea is we had these sort of, pieces, right? These really aren't high resolution. I guess they were made to go into the restrictions of Kickstarter. It only had the maximum width for a graphic is 680 pixels or something like that. So we're basically trying to recreate this. But whilst these are renders, we're trying to get away with just using the viewport. So I'll probably tweak these a little bit more. We do want to make these work also for, like, this will look really good with the corner pieces that are here. Let's see if I turn that on. Select objects, and we isolate that again. This shows the corner pieces quite nicely, and we could illustrate, the inside by just duplicating this and then rotating it so you can see the opposite side. So that's kind of the plan. And that's the other thing with an isometric camera. You can't really change the view. It's locked in place, so you have to change it manually. It's interesting that these pieces are reflecting so differently based on where they are, but I'm guessing it's to do with the door. Yeah. So in any case, let's go back. I might just save this scene as an isometric scene. Let's see, you want to go in work in progress. There we go. It's going to create some unnecessarily large files on the hard drive, but in any case, to reiterate what we talked about today, we have done some additional work on this scene, which is going to be probably used in our pitch video. I'm kind of happy with the way it's looking. I'm happy with the way it's looking. And I can imagine working in this way in the future. The only downside is it's great for mood lighting, but it doesn't show off the products as well. So we definitely need to consider that. We have re-engineered our power plants from Starship 1, the old version, the new version. And you can kind of see that there's quite a bit more detail in there. We have imported the parts into 3DO and Deck Designer. So if you have either of those pieces of software, you can play with the pieces, arrange them. For the most part, it should work as is, especially with the floor tiles. And we are preparing materials to launch sometime next week. So next week, we may stream more often. I'm not sure yet. It depends. We may be stressed for time. But you can definitely assume that we're going to be switching into high gear in order to release next week. So I've got to be off and start getting prepared for that. We'll make this a shorter session this week, although we have like 1.5 minutes left or something like that. Yeah, 1 minute left. So we'll leave things there. Thanks for joining me today. Hopefully it wasn't too tedious or boring. And we'll be back next week when it will certainly be a little bit more